All right, everybody, we are live. Okay, so we want to, good evening, everybody. Today is February 7th, 2021, and we're about to start our meeting. This is our monthly meeting for the Jamaica Diaspora Education Task Force. And in general, I want to make a general statement of welcome to everybody, including our special guests. But they have, because they're special, they have a special welcome. And I want to say welcome to our viewers also on YouTube. And remember, guys, we're going to say this a bunch of times leading up to our special guest address, that you should drop your questions in the chat in YouTube. So drop your questions in the chat, and then we'll take those questions over to our special guests. This is quite a few of us today, and we'll get those questions answered, okay? No problem, it's totally fine. You can just drop your questions over there, or even comments. You can comment on it. So I want to say a special welcome to our chair for JD10. Mr. Leo Gillen is here also, and shout out to you, Mr. Gillen. And also the directors for the committees, and by no means least, my vice chair and the partner, Miss Leslie Ann Samuel. She's also the president of UJA. Big deal. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna hand over now to Miss Largy to do our welcome and tell us where we go from here. We'll hand over also right after that to Miss Leslie Ann Samuel, who will take us away into the other parts of our program. Okay, so handing over to Miss Largy now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dice, and good afternoon, everyone. A special welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night to everyone around the world who is joining us. Our guests this month are representing the Early Childhood Commission in Jamaica. The ECC ladies are Paula Shaw, the sector planner, Mrs. Michelle Campbell, director, cross-sectoral coordination, and Mrs. Carlene Deslandes, the executive director of the Early Childhood Commission. Ladies, those of us here in the Northeast USA right now are being blanketed with snow that has been falling since morning in most cities and states in the Northeast. But as of now, it is beautiful to look at as long as we remain inside. Nevertheless, a very warm welcome to you all. Each month, Dr. Dice invites special guest speakers, and this month we are very excited to host you. Believe me, as passionate and committed that you are in serving the little ones in Jamaica, who I like to call our youngest, cutest, most adorable, lovable, and precious citizens, we too here in the diaspora are, and especially on this task force, are committed to play our part in getting them off to the right start in education, investing today for tomorrow. Ladies of the ECC, again, welcome, and we look forward to your presentation.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. And thank you so much again for joining us, everybody. Miss Samuel, I'm going to hand over to you. And while you speak, I'm going to put our agenda up here.
Yes, if you can, especially the second page. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm so delighted to be here with you all. And yes, as Caroline says, a warm Jamaican welcome to you all, even though most of us aren't in Jamaica in the warmth, but it's okay. We are thinking warm thoughts, and that's what matters here. So we get together for the Education Task Force every month. We come together to catch up with each other just a little bit, but also to hear some good news about generally what is happening in the education space, in particular in Jamaica. For those of you who are guests, let me share just a little bit, and that's why I asked Dr. Dice to put up this particular slide for you so that you can see how we are organized. Within the Education Task Force, we actually have 7 committees, and they are listed as you see there: educational leadership, instructional planning and collaboration, mentoring, early childhood, education and technology, school and community partnerships, and the alumni groups. So the idea here is to cover the entire spectrum of education, and we have probably left out some, but we've tried to fit it all in so that throughout the year we can ensure that we attempt to cover each of these areas and to share with each other, learn from each other, figure out if there are opportunities for us to do more, very simply in each of these areas, particularly in Jamaica, of course. So what Dr. Dice has done is he has put down the leads, if you will, or the directors, where, as you can see, he and I are kind of doing some double duty in a few areas for the moment as we try to find individuals who are interested in these particular areas and are willing to help us lead them. So if you know anybody, feel free to pass our contact information on so that we can introduce them to the team, and perhaps we can do a little bit more. We had hoped to have at this point, I think Miss Jackson is on. Yes, she's with us this evening, as well as Nicole Gardier. Did I see? Yes, for School and Community Partnership. Glad to have you both. Tamashella and Nahalia are both in Jamaica, so they may be on the other platform. So if you're there, welcome. Glad to know that you're with us if you're there. Okay, I had hoped that we would have our visitors from anybody from UK on.
No,
Not yet, right? Or maybe they. How about JMed in the Middle East?
No, they're probably still sleeping.
Nah, okay, so maybe they won't be joining us this time after all. If you can slide back up to the agenda, then please, Dr. Dice. So we do have partnerships with a team in the UK as well as in the Middle East. So that's the Jamaica Education Task Force UK and the Jamaica Middle East Diaspora team. So those are the 2 teams that exist outside of the United States that we work very closely with. And we typically come together for seminars as well as certainly for the Education Summit, which will happen sometime this summer. So that's kind of in a nutshell who we are and what we are trying to do. So with that, I think, Carleen, I'll turn back over to you. Are you doing the introduction of Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes,
let's do it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Mrs. Michelle Campbell.
Can take down the.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Mrs. Michelle Campbell is in her 11th year at the Early Childhood Commission. She has had several positions during this time, but currently has responsibilities as Director Cross-Sectoral Coordination, which is providing leadership for development of training, certification, and accreditation systems, coordinating and integrating these programs across ministries, agencies, and stakeholders. Mrs. Campbell holds a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in early childhood education from Nova Southeastern University in Florida, and a specialized graduate certificate in working with infants and toddlers with special needs from the University of Central Florida. Welcome, Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you so much. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Great.
Good.
Glad to have you.
Same here, same here. Let me get my screen up. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, great. So yes, we are here in warm Jamaica. And on behalf of our executive director, our board of commissioners, and Mrs. Paula Shaw, thank you so much for having us today. We are nice and warm and toasty, and I know you guys are too with the heat on, but nevertheless, we are here together. So thank you for having us. I'm going to share a little bit about the Early Childhood Commission, our operations, our programs and services. It's going to be an overview of what we are currently doing and in between many of our achievements to date and where we're headed. So
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Yeah, before you dig deep into it, I want to just apologize. I want to remind the people on YouTube to drop their questions and comments in the YouTube chat so that we can get them addressed as you go along or during the time of question and answer. So
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you. And
no, that's okay.
If you can remind them as you go through your talk.
All right, not a problem.
Thank you so much.
And Mrs. Shaw, she's going to interject at any time.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
early childhood, so we understand that change happens at any given moment.
Yeah.
So the establishment of the ECC. So based on research and emerging early childhood practices in 1995, UNICEF would have supported the review of the EC sector. And coming out of that, they would have mapped the activities within Jamaica, and the report would have established that a national cross-sectorial coordination for ECD was really needed here in Jamaica. And then by 2003, the Early Childhood Commission was established by an act of parliament. Now, the act for the commission, our mandate is twofold. We have regulatory powers and we have intersectoral responsibility for national policy formulation and compliance with international agreements. So as it relates to the regulatory powers, we have our inspectorate corps that have been gazetted, and our inspectors have the right to go into any of our institutions at any given time. Now, in terms of intercross-sectorial responsibility, we have a responsibility to ensure that we have partnerships with both public and private entities and ensuring that we adhere to national policies as it relates to ECD. Now, under the legislation, we advise the Minister of Education on ECD policy. We convene consultations with our stakeholders throughout the year. We coordinate and we monitor all ECD programs here in Jamaica. We identify sources of funding for the sector. We regulate our institutions across the island, and those institutions would include our infant schools.
Lost her?
Mrs. Campbell, we're not hearing you.
Oh, she went right out.
Yeah, she went very cold quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
Has she's left them? No. I'll try and make contact.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
So all right. So what we'll do is we will get just a word in from our directors just to tell us just a little bit about themselves. Okay? Until we make contact with Mrs. Campbell. She's gonna be right back up in a jiffy. Okay. So let's talk a little bit, directors, or just a tiny bit here. Miss Janine Jackson, just tell us a little bit about you and the role you play in JDTAN's Director of the Educational Leadership Committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me clearly? I don't have a microphone today.
Yeah.
So, the education lead teachers and managers to determine what kind of needs they have and how we can assist. And so we met briefly last week, and we have decided that we are going to focus on developing school improvement plans. So we're going to institute a series of workshops beginning in April. And so that it will April, May, and June, which will align with the time when the school improvement plans need to be submitted. And so that is our work. We're going to be meeting again on February 21st at 7 p.m. So if anyone is interested, please contact Dr. Dice so that he can let me know and I can add you to the link. Thanks.
Okay.
Awesome, Mrs. Jackson. Awesome, awesome. Loving that.
Good. Yeah, so everybody who needs school improvement plan, like a touch up or some other, like, ideas.
New ideas, right.
Yes.
Awesome.
Awesome indeed. All right, let's hear from Miss Nicola. She has been with the School and Community Partnership for a while, literally from its inception, the committee. And she has really wonderful ideas. I think she's rolling out something this month. So let's hear from you, Nicola.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm excited to be here this evening. I wish I was in Jamaica, so I get it. So for me right now, I'm working on the virtual engagement or just student engagement in general, whether the students are doing the synchronous or the asynchronous learning. So I'm working on that. I'm waiting for a date, Dr. Dice. I'm just about done with that presentation. I'm excited to be on School and Community Partnership because as a servant leader, my heart is in the community. I'm a vice principal right now in Texas. I'm also working on my doctorate, but I'm in a 2-year fellowship with the Texas Policy Institute, where I'll be writing educational policies and also testifying in front of the Senate and also House and Texas Education Agency. So my hands are full. So be patient with me.
Yes.
I'll be setting up meetings here shortly for us to get together as a team, because I do believe that we're stronger together. Doesn't matter what your experience is or what your educational background is, when all the minds come together, it's powerful. One quick thing, because I'm very proud of this. I'm also the CEO for my own international foundation. Right now, my goal is to feed over 10,000 people in Jamaica this year. I had my first grocery donation to the Mount Airy community last month, where we fed over 20 plus families. And so I'm super, super, super excited about that. I have another donation going down at the end of this week to 4 families. And I've had about 3 different communities reach out to me, wanting us to do the same food donation process. So I'm excited. Happy to be here. I could talk about
we have a schedule edu talk with the directors, and we're gonna highlight those initiatives that you have there. And she's also a published author. Everybody, can you give us the title of the book? And
okay, so let me grab one because I have one right here.
Yeah, it's in School and Community Partnership. So it's
hold on one second.
Yes,
I'm coming right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so as Dr. Dice says, I've published 2 books. Live Your Abundant Life 2, which is a collection of stories from women who have gone through some situations. And of course, we triumph above it. We come out on top and we help each other out. As a spinoff to that book, I have 2 journals where if you've gone through a divorce or going through a divorce, you can chart your journey. And this is available both in Spanish and English. And this one is called Circle Up.
Yes.
It's based around restorative discipline practices. And when I say restorative practices, it's not just for educators, but also for the home. I presented, I think it was last month, to the Texas PTA, and it was all about restorative parenting. And it was overwhelming, the feedback I received from a lot of parents who are at home right now with unsurmountable amount of stress because of the pandemic, losing their job, having to teach children without being teachers.
Yes.
This is a powerful one, and I have this on my website. I'm getting ready. On my website, you can find both of my books, but this one especially because it's not just for school; it's for school and home.
And home, yeah.
One of these days, I would love to do a restorative circle with this committee.
Yes, yes.
Or just to show you guys the power in the conversation, because it's really about building relationships and having meaningful conversations at all times, and that will move a mountain.
Very good. Yes. Very
Thank
good.
you, Dr.
I'm
Baxter.
very proud of you. Very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
That the sky is not even the limit. There's no limit at all. You know? Yeah, very good.
My training began in Jamaica, Epping Forest All Age at Hampton High School.
Yes. What are the communities you're serving food? Give us the name of it again.
Right now, committed to the Mount Airy community.
Where is that?
It's in the Grill.
Okay.
I did a service project there with my doctoral cohort about 2 years ago, and we fell in love. Epping Forest All Age and Primary just reached out to me last week, and I'll be doing a drive there, and also Rose Hall Primary and All Age. I have so many requests coming in. There's another group, I can't remember where they're located, but they're doing a pepper farm. They actually reached out to my foundation to help purchase the pipes for the irrigation. So we're moving and grooving in the International Foundation here for Myers Garden.
Yeah.
Y'all pray for me.
Yes, yeah, we are, yes. And I mean, my vice chair here, thank you very much, Nicola. My vice chair, Ms. Leslie, there are things coming up, guys. Viewers too, especially on YouTube. Many of you spread the word. Very interesting initiatives coming up and workshops, especially about nonprofit and so on, from different collaborators. So just stay tuned to the JDTAN network for more information as they become available to us. We have really wonderful things coming up next month and the following month, April, May, leading into the middle of the year. So it's really good. All right. I don't think we have our other directors on. I would love for them, but if they're not on today, it's not a problem. We're gonna have them on EduTalk in next month, March, to just highlight a whole lot of leadership in here coming out of the JDTAN network. Okay, are we back up, Ms. Campbell?
Yes, I'm back. I'm so sorry.
It's good. You're good.
Did not expect to lose power today, but nonetheless, I'm back. Thank you. So looking back at the mission, so making sure that we have an integrated and coordinated delivery of high quality early childhood programs and services, which provide equity and access for children 0 to 8 years old within healthy, safe, and nurturing environments. And this really speaks about our institutions and making sure that we're following our 12 standards that are outlined for operation through the Act and regulations for early childhood. And then of course, the vision, all children having access to quality early childhood development services, enabling the realization of their full potential. So that's the mission and vision for the commission. Now, the structure of the ECC, we're governed by a board of commissioners that report directly to the Minister of Education, Youth, and Information. And our board, we have members from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Health and Wellness. We have Finance, Labor, Social Security, Child Development Agency, which has since changed. We have Planning Institute of Jamaica, and we have a number of other professionals that serve on our board of commissioners. Now, within the board of commissioners, they're all then divided to serve the various departments at the ECC. So with their expertise, they provide services to all departments. They're assigned to different departments, which we call subcommittees, and the departments are then placed on various subcommittees. So within the ECC, we have the finance department, we have our internal audit department, information technology, sector support services, training, regulation and monitoring, community relations, HR, communications, and cross-sectoral coordination. So of our board, we have subcommittees of the board. And from there, we meet with our commissioners and we provide updates on our activities. We provide updates on projects. They also provide their expertise in the work that we do on a monthly basis. So for me, for example, my subcommittee, the name of my subcommittee is Training, Research, and Development, which really looks at research, which comes out of the cross-sectoral coordination arm, and then development comes out of sector support services. So the two areas in red are the core departments at the commission. Regulation and monitoring, they inspect the institutions, and sector support services, based on the inspection report, that department develops what we call a development plan, better known as a school development plan, and they support the school in meeting the 12 standards on the road to certification. So I'm going to be looking at those two areas and sharing some information as to where those two departments stand currently. Now, within the ECC, we do have a national strategic plan, which is our 5-year plan, our roadmap that we use to outline the life cycle approach of child development and where we expect to see our children and families at the end of the 5 years. We're currently in our 3rd strategic plan. The first 2 were quite successful, and we take the life cycle approach where here is the map outlined for us. So when we look at the national impact, we want children who can think critically, who are socially competent, who are healthy and just ready for life. We want to ensure that our parents are informed, they're educated, they're involved, and they can support their children to meet the early childhood needs within those particular critical years. Now, when we look at customer satisfaction, we want to ensure that our children, for those who might have a special need, a potential special need, we want to be able to address all of those and making sure that the families are involved and they get the services that they need for their children very, very early. Now, through our national strategic plan, there are 5 main core areas, and this is where you really see the life cycle come out. Effective parenting, education, and support. So children are born into their families. Thereafter, they find healthcare. They go into the health services for their well child visits, their clinic appointments. And then from there, we look at how we provide intervention for children at risk through our screening process, through our child health and development passport when they enter an institution. IP4, our internal process, safe, learner-centered, well-maintained EC facilities. And this is where our regulation and monitoring department comes out, where they go into the schools and they assess the institutions based on the 12 standards. And the 12 standards really looks at staffing, we look at health and development, we look at nutrition, we look at the physical environment, we look at the community, we look at parenting, we look at the finances of the institution, we look at curriculum, we look at how the adults are interacting with children, and we look also at the critical areas of community involvement as well. IP5, we have to place a strong focus on the curriculum. We do have a Jamaica early childhood curriculum for birth to 5. That curriculum has been in use amongst our institutions. It's on our website, and we're currently in the beginning process of reviewing the curriculum. When we look at the governance of our sector and our partners, one, we have to look at how we govern the sector through cross-sectoral coordination with our public and private partners, and how we share information, how we share research through public education, and also how we provide funding to the sector itself. Currently, for our budget at the Early Childhood Commission, it's at $1.8 billion for the 2020-2021 year. 1.2 billion of our budget is allocated for our early childhood practitioners. So through the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, we provide what we call a salary subsidy to our practitioners that are currently working at institutions. And that salary subsidy really supports the salary already given from the institution to the practitioners. Thereafter, the remaining budget speaks to our operations at the commission itself. Also, we provide nutrition grants and we provide material grants to schools that qualify for those services. We also have a small budget for the operations of our resource centers. So within each parish, we have an early childhood development center that is used for training, that is used for our parent places, that is used for our partners in terms of training, meetings, things like that. So we do have a small budget for that particular area as well. Now, the next slide I'm going to look at speaks to regulation and monitoring. Now, currently we have 2,534 institutions that have applied for registration. So that's 95% of all institutions across Jamaica. Of that number, we have an increase of 2,674 institutions in operation. Of that, we have 140 that are delinquent, which means they have not applied to the Early Childhood Commission for registration. Of that delinquents, we have 24 which are government-owned institutions. So we continue to encourage these institutions to apply for registration. We provide them with the applications, we call them, we walk them through the process of getting the institutions to register. This is we're at a good place right now because I must say our numbers continue to go down. So we're quite pleased that the majority of our institutions have applied for registration. Now, in terms of our government institutions, we have 405, 381 of which have applied for registration with the Early Childhood Commission. And when you apply for registration, one, we know that you're out there, you're providing services. And then two, we're going to come out and inspect your institution. We want to first ensure that health and safety measures are being followed. And then thereafter, from that inspection report, we work with our development officers to draft that school development plan to assist the institution on the road to certification. So it's quite important that all institutions apply for registration. We want to ensure that the health and safety needs of the children are first and utmost met. When I talk about certification, against our 12 standards, it means that institutions have met the legal items on the inspection report. There are approximately 500 indicators on the inspection report, and most of those are legal as well as voluntary indicators. But currently we have 273 institutions across the island that have been certified. And as you can see, we've broken it down by parish. And you can see in Kingston, we have 9 institutions. St. Andrew, we have 57. In Portland, we have 9. St. Mary, we have 7. St. Thomas, 3. St. Anne, 15. Trelawney, 13. Hanover, 16. St. James, 35. Westmoreland, 25. Manchester, 27. St. Elizabeth, 16. Clarendon, 20, and St. Catherine, 21. Due to COVID, of course, we've had to put certification on hold, but nonetheless, we continue to work behind the scenes, looking at the institutions that are closest to certification and continue to support them in terms of materials and resources for their institutions. Now, within the regulation and monitoring department, we have approximately 50 staff members. We have a director, we have a customer service unit, and then we have our senior inspectors as well as our inspectors on the ground. Thereafter, our next core area would be sector support services, which really is the development and education arm of the commission itself. This department is solely responsible for supporting the reopening of school. And again, with the reopening of school, we've had 436 institutions approved by the Ministry of Health for reopening. And then thereafter, awaiting inspections, we have 277 schools, and 221 additional schools were not approved for reopening. So we do have some schools across the island that have reopened. The majority of what we do is currently online, but I'll speak a little bit about that in the next slide. So for sector support services, we have development officers on the ground, and development officers are assigned to institutions within zones. So we have our parishes, we've broken the parishes down to zones, and that's where we have assigned development officers. Development officers are assigned to what we call a early childhood development supervisor. And from there, they look at the classroom. We have a classroom observation tool that our officers use when they go into the classrooms to see and observe teacher quality, curriculum, and approaches to learning within the classroom itself. So our COVID-related activities with what's happening now, our officers have been reassigned to develop our activity plans. We don't call them lesson plans, we call them activity plans at the early childhood level. So our officers have been designing those activity plans because on our website, we have plans prepared for our parents for the home itself. And then of course, our practitioners that are doing online and face-to-face. We continue to collect data on the opening of school and monitoring those schools that have reopened for this particular school term. COVID care, many of our practitioners would have benefited from this particular service, providing funding to many of our practitioners. And we're happy to say that it was a long process, but many of our practitioners have been paid now in full under the COVID-19 care program. And we continue to meet the compliance with many of our institutions in terms of resources for sanitation and the distribution. So we've received many donations for hand washing stations, for supplies for the classroom, just to support the reopening of school itself. Now, training is a big area for us. We have approximately 15,000 practitioners, trained teachers working within the sector, and we're responsible for ensuring that training is ongoing for our practitioners. We have our Standard 2 curriculum that looks at the programming at our institutions. And that particular training is online. Many of our trainings have gone online with our practitioners. So it's widely available. We have a special needs curriculum that we would have developed in with support from UNICEF. This week alone, we are finalizing our curriculum where we're looking at working with children 0 to 3. When we designed our national strategic plan, we found that we had a gap with our children 0 to 3. And from there, a 0 to 3 strategy was developed. We have since opened what we call brain builder centers, looking at 0 to 3, looking at our infants and toddlers and providing at no cost to parents facility for early stimulation, nutrition, and child protection. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information has given us a mandate to establish 126 brain builder centers, and I believe we're at 90 right now. So we want to ensure that we have these brain builder centers within all parishes. It was 2 per constituency, so we're almost there in meeting that particular mandate. We also train our institutions on policies. So we have policies for nutrition, we have policies on fire prevention, health, safety, And all of our institutions are responsible for making sure that these policies are drafted and updated in a timely manner. And we offer support to our principals and practitioners in this area. First aid, CPR, and universal precautions is mandatory. That is law, as well as child abuse. And every week we offer curriculum support by age group to our practitioners. And again, that too has gone online. In recent times, due to COVID-19, in term 2 of the school year, starting in March, April, we normally would assess our age 4 children. We have approximately 40,000 age 4 children that would be assessed using our age 4 assessment that looks at literacy, numeracy, approaches to learning and behavior. And because we were unable to complete the assessment last year, what we decided to do was to automate our scope and sequence from the curriculum, which really looks at the milestones of the children. So this particular item now has been automated, and our practitioners have begun to go in and enter the observational, their anecdotal notes, and documenting the milestones of the children. So although the teachers have access for birth up to 5, our focus will be first on the 4-year-olds to see how they're doing as we anticipate the way forward for this particular year. Now, our Professional Development Institute is coming up, and that's May 17th to the 21st. And I will send out the letter shortly to you, Dr. Dice, as to the Institute itself. It's going to be free of cost. It's virtual, and our theme is through a transformational learning environment, our children are inspired to be creative. We do have our guest speaker from the World Bank, Mr. Harry Petranos, and he will be speaking as to early childhood development in Jamaica overall internationally. So we look forward to that. And we look forward to all of you attending as well. And I will get that letter out shortly. Now, I talked a little bit about regulations and monitoring and sector support services. We have a unit that we called community relations, and that really looks at parenting and establishing partnerships with the community itself. So currently, from the National Parenting Support Commission, we have 74 parent places, and parent places are a one-stop place for parents where they can go for information, they can go for training, and there's a particular level where they can go for other services. So we have, out of the 74, we have certified 48 of our parent places. The others are awaiting audit from the National Parenting Support Commission. And through the parent places, we do offer a curriculum that supports parents across Jamaica and can also be customized to their particular needs. Now, within that unit, we do have some reading activities that we have not been able to do due to COVID. However, we're online with many of our activities as it relates to literacy. We're connecting with our parents through WhatsApp groups, direct calls, and curriculum workshops virtually. We have what we call our ECC community flags, where we would normally go into communities to build relationships, build awareness about the commission, what we do, and why it's so important at this particular stage for early childhood to show the foundation where it begins and what we need to do to prepare our children with the skills that they need before they get into grade 1. ECC Pondakana, again, working with our partners, our practitioners. In one particular central location, we would normally call in various community groups to go in with us for additional support. And then reading Pandakana, ECC, again, we would go across the parishes and read in one central location. We would have groups of individuals, parents, professionals, community supporters to go out and read, but this has all turned virtual, and we're now on YouTube with our stories and also on Twitter. So if you follow us, you would have seen many of our live readings, our posts on Twitter as it relates to our reading corner. Now, in terms of social media, through our national strategic plan, this was one area that our stakeholders told us that we had to improve upon, communicating with the public as to the ECC, what we do, our achievements, and what we can do to help parents and practitioners. So I would say that the biggest plus right now for us would be social media. We're all over social media. Every day you can find us on Twitter. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and we continue to grow our following. Of course, we have traditional media through radio, television, and newspaper every day. I believe we start at 7:30 to 8:30. We're on One Spot Media, where we provide our activity plans. We have a circle time, we conduct a story time, and we conduct a creative activity every day with our practitioners. So we have a teacher come into the ECC and we do live recordings of the day's activity. We also, of course, emails and WhatsApp, and continue to use our phones to work with our partners and promotional materials as well. And our meetings, we use Google quite a bit for meetings, and that continues to work for us. But nonetheless, we have a communication strategy that we continue to follow. And of course, it really covers the areas of early stimulation, nutrition, and parenting in terms of social protection for our children. So our communication strategy was recently evaluated, and we continue to drive the efforts of that particular strategy. And here, my final slide really looks at social media and the growth over the last 2 months. So for Twitter, a little bit over 9,000, for Instagram, 3,500, and then Facebook, 4,270. We're trying really hard with our practitioners, especially, to follow us on social media, and that has been helping as well. We've gone paperless. We've been paperless at the commission for the past 3 to 4 years. And, it's difficult to communicate with 15,000 practitioners, but nonetheless, they have begun to really follow us on all of our social media platforms, as well as having access to their inspectors and development officers. So all staff members are assigned, telephone. So the field, the sector itself is well connected, to the ECC and the work that we are currently doing. Now, I want to go back before I end with our national strategic plan. We are on our 3rd plan, and I must say I want to highlight some achievements over the last 10 years. Starting with parenting, the National Parenting Support Commission would have been established out of the commission. The strategy, the standards. So we have standards for our institutions, we have standards as it relates to parenting, and we have recently developed standards for the health sector itself as it relates to well child clinics. So as parents go into their well child visits, they really are expected to experience a full early childhood experience through their curriculum as it relates to early childhood development and the services they provide. So the sector has really gotten strong in terms of making the connections and making sure that the services are coordinated through parenting, which is our first core area of that life cycle I would have talked about earlier, followed by health, and then thereafter, early intervention. So we have our parenting standards, we have our health standards. When it comes to early interventions, we have developed quite a bit of instruments. We have an instrument for families at risk. We have our age 4 assessment. We have the Child Health and Development Passport, and that would have been developed with the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the ECC partnering on completing that particular passport. The passport has been evaluated over the past 2 years, and unfortunately, due to COVID, the ministry had to delay the launch of the revised passport, but we know that it should be coming up for some time this year. As we look at early interventions, this is one area that our practitioners are not trained in, but with the support from UNICEF, we have developed a course that looks at early interventions, looks at special needs, looks at really how our practitioners can document and provide information for further assessment of their children in need. So that training is coming up for our practitioners. We're also providing resources for many of our institutions with children with special needs through the help of UNICEF as well. Before the end of our 3rd strategic plan, we will have in place our early intervention strategy. So we have all of the tools currently, we just have to put them all together. And this particular area is one that we would definitely need additional funding in terms of early interventions. We partner with the Ministry of Labor through the Early Stimulation Program. They provide screening, assessments, and services for children at the early childhood level. And then thereafter, we expect with our practitioners that we'll be able to provide services just a little bit faster and in a more timely manner. When we look at our early childhood institutions itself and the standards, we would have gone across the island over the past few years where we would have had fairs. We had fairs as we looked at our standards, and we went across the island to educate our institutions, our communities as to what the standards are and why they're so important. And from there, we would have been able to really begin building on certifying our institutions. When a school is certified, parents clearly understand that it's of quality that is being offered at that particular institution. In terms of training, we have approximately 45% of our practitioners are now at a level 3 or higher in terms of qualifications, whether that be a diploma, a bachelor's degree, master's degree. We have quite a few of our practitioners who have gone back to school and educated themselves. Through the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, we now have been able to modernize many of our institutions. The Ministry of Education, as you would have seen in an earlier slide, we have increased the number of infant schools and departments. So if an institution is in need of support and they're unable to function, the ministry is willing to look at that institution to see how best they can go under the government's program of becoming an infant school. So in many communities, we would have had a cluster of basic schools that would have come together to become one infant school, or we might have a small school become an infant department. So the government is really looking at ways to ensure that we have more public access, because right now the majority of our institutions are really private institutions. So we want to offer more public, making sure that we have more public availability of spaces for our children going forward. And I think that would be it for me in a nutshell in terms of the ECC. Of course, our focus right now is on COVID and making sure that we're reaching as many children as possible and supporting families as best as we can through our activities. We have sent out learning kits to children in areas where it's very difficult for connectivity and lack of devices. We have also printed materials for our children, and we would have delivered at a central location. So every day through our field offices, and for those of us in office as well, we continue to support all of the COVID efforts with the support of public and private partnerships. And I think that's all I have for you. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And that's why we know early childhood is so important here in Jamaica and all over the world globally. All right, so Dr. Dice, that's all I have. Colleagues, are there questions for me?
Oh yes, thank you so much. There are questions, and we want to start off. Let's go quickly because we're over a little bit, but we're gonna get some time in to ask some questions. So let's get with Miss Jackson. Miss Jackson, you can unmute and ask your question.
I didn't have a question.
No, the other Miss Jackson.
Sorry.
Yes, Miss Alina Jackson.
Oh, hi. Good evening, everyone. I am just here enjoying the program, enjoying all this information. I can never get enough of early childhood education. No, my question, I was looking at the slide that Ms. Campbell had put forward when she spoke about the schools that were certified. And I realized that the numbers in Kingston were very low. And I would want to know, what does ECC think attributes to this low rate when it comes on to certification of schools in Kingston? And I would think that Kingston would have more schools, more early childhood institutions. So why is it that we are not as compliant or not getting there with our numbers? That's my question.
So in terms of certification, one main reason is that the ratios are too high in the classroom. So the ratios in our classrooms for an infant, it's 1 to 5, so 1 adult to 5 children. For toddlers, 1 adult to 8 children. And then for 3 to 5-year-olds, it's 1 adult to 10 children. So we don't want to see more than 20 children in a classroom with more than, less than 2 adults. So I would say 1, it's going to be ratios. It's very difficult for many of our institutions, which are private institutions, to maintain the ratios and then be able to pay their staff members. So that's one. The other main reason would be the square footage per child. So the classrooms are too small to accommodate the children. So many times we have to go in, we have to measure, we have to remove particular pieces of furniture so that we can meet the square footage per child. So it would be ratios, 1, it would be the square footage, 2. And then 3, we have to ensure that we have the qualified persons in place at the institution with the requisite qualifications, whether that be for the trained teacher or the teacher assistant who would have to be at a vocational level. Based on the inspection report, this is normally all laid out in the inspection report against the 12 standards. So we share with our institutions what the main areas are, and then from there begin to work with them on what we would say the low-hanging fruit, and then build upon all of the other areas. One thing I can say is that for standard 2, when we're looking at the developmentally appropriate programming, I talked a little bit earlier about policies. So like for standard 2, a lot of it has to do with making sure we have all of the policies in place. And once an institution really sits down and develops the policies, that really takes them on to the next level of reaching certification. So we have to make sure we have the staff, we have the ratios met, we have the furniture and equipment, and we're meeting all of those other particular areas. Through our development officers and our inspectors, they continue to support the institutions. And when parents and the community begins to hear more about certification, everyone wants to get on board towards certification. So we have seen an increase of interest in certification, and we continue to work with those particular institutions. We do have sponsors and donors that come on board that want to give back to their particular community, and from there we work with them. And then keep in mind too, we've had to take on big projects with many of the institutions, whether that be fencing, whether that be, you know, adding another bathroom based on the ratio for how many children per sink and per toilet. So all of that really does play a role in this whole process of certification. But you're right, Kingston is pretty low. Kingston is low.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Campbell. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Jackson, the other Jackson, Miss Jenny. Okay, Mr. Javon Miller, and then we'll go over to Miss Russell. Let's sandwich the gentleman here. Mr. Miller.
Hi. How are you guys doing? Wonderful presentation, first and foremost. The question I have is, who can we speak to about helping out with the reading program? Because we have a pretty exceptional one here. So how can we collaborate?
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Dr. Dice, can you share our email addresses, and we can start there with an email.
Oh,
and
yes.
We can have a meeting with you and hear a little bit about your program. You can email us some information and we'll be able to connect with you. That's not a problem.
Okay, wonderful.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, you can, just for preliminary purposes, you can drop your email address in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, with your name. That's good. That was a short one.
No, that was good. We do collaborate with many of our partners. So that would be exciting for us.
Yeah, and Javon also has an online system, a gaming system that helps to build math with skills. So that one is a good one for early childhood. All right, let me see, Miss Russell, Miss Angela Russell, good to have you on.
Yes, Dr. Dice, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you.
Go ahead.
My question concerns the scope and sequence checklist. I am not sure if I fully understand what is supposed to be done. So I am requesting some additional information.
Okay. Can you drop your email address, your contact in the chat?
Yes, Ms. Campbell, Angela Russell from Middlesex Infant.
Okay, so the scope and sequence is on the website. Have any of your teachers attended any of the training sessions as yet?
Because of connectivity issue, they did not fully attend the session that we're on. And I myself also,
okay.
So I am not able to lead them.
Okay, all right.
Right.
So then we can, we'll have to talk offline to see how best we can connect with.
Yes, Miss. Thank you, great. I'll be so grateful.
Okay. Who's your development officer, Ms. Russell? Who's your development officer?
Miss Leonie Panton.
Panton, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
That's good.
Thank you.
I think there's another question from another person here. I don't know if she's on. Is there another question? There was another person with a question here. If not, then we'll close off the presentation here. 1 second.
And Dr. Dice, if there are questions thereafter, they can make contact with us.
Yes, and they're hearing you. Okay, all right. I'm gonna say thank you, Mrs. Campbell and Mrs. Shaw. Mrs. Shaw, can you come on and just say hi to everybody so that everyone can see you as well? Great presentation, Mrs. Campbell. Miss
Here I am.
Carlin Largy will say hi. We'll give you the thanks in a little while. I want to get greetings from Miss Shaw. Mrs. Shaw, go ahead, please.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It was really wonderful to be here, and I am happy to have been able to support Mrs. Campbell, who is the manager for the department with which I am connected. We think of ourselves as the outward-looking side of the Early Childhood Commission. So we are happy to spread the word about what the work is that we do at the commission, and also to take questions from persons and try and get the answers for those questions. So Mrs. Campbell has put her email address in the chat. I will put mine momentarily. Please feel free to reach out to us. We're, as you know, as you probably have guessed, we're doing the best that we can with the resources that we can. There is always need for more resources. And those resources by way of information is very, very important to us. So thank you very much for having us. And we'll be happy to come back if you want to. And in the meantime, we're only an email away.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Shaw.
You're very welcome.
And what we're going to do, as soon as we're finished with the meeting, we will put your email addresses in the YouTube chat. So everyone will have that as well. Okay. Now, there is, Mrs. Shaw, is Miss Delandes, is she on?
Hang on, Mrs. Deslandes.
Deslandes, yes.
No, she's not. She didn't make it on.
Okay, all right. Give her our greeting, please.
Certainly will. Certainly will.
Welcome anytime as well. We're gonna have you back though, because we have a committee dedicated to early childhood. So we're going to do some stuff in that committee in the education task force.
Wonderful.
So, yes, look out for us. And everybody, thank you for coming on YouTube as well. We know the chat is giving a little bit of problem. When we get that fixed right after, then you can drop your information or questions in the chat, and then we'll take care of those at a later date. Okay, it's not too late. All right, I'm gonna hand over to Miss Carlin Largy, Lady Largy, to move the kind of like a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Certainly. Okay. This was very interesting. And by the way, Dr. Dice, I have to talk to you. I see you don't have a lead for the Early Childhood Commission. And as you know, I am the immediate past president of UJA, and our mission is early childhood. The ones that don't really have an alumni association.
Okay.
Okay. So Mrs. Campbell, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much. It was very informative. And a lot of what you said, I was because a little bit knew a little bit about it, because we've really been trying to work with them. I have to show off right here. UJA does have a basic school, an infant school out in Hanover that we take care of. So thank you very much. And I'm sure, I believe Mr. Dice when he says you're definitely going to be back on. Mrs. Shaw, I understand we have something in common with a mutual friend, which I did not know.
Okay.
It was really great to see you, and thank you very much. So on behalf of Mr. Dice, the Vice Chair, Leslie and Samuel, the committee members here, and our audience from Jamaica and around the world, whoever was able to hear us, thank you so much for being here. It was really informative, and as I said, you know, when I said in my welcome about the little ones being the cutest, the most adorable, they are. They definitely are. So we owe them a responsibility. Once again, thank you for the work that you're doing very much. Well done. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Lady Largy. And for everybody, just public information, Miss Carlin Largy is our communications director in the education task force. And I'm thinking we need to talk about the next role that you're sinking yourself in there. We're gonna talk about it. Very nice having everybody on. I'm going to share my screen here just for a tiny bit to let everybody know when our next monthly meeting is, which is on March 7th. It's just like a 7th like today. And so we'll see you in exactly 1 month from today. We want to thank also, even though they didn't show up, I got word from Jet UK and JMed. They apologize for not showing up for this meeting. So it's okay. We forgive you and we'll move on hand in hand. Okay. So our next meeting is March 7th, monthly meeting. And also our directors meeting is next week, basically. It's the 14th. And that meeting is going to be filled with directors' love because it's Valentine's Day. You know, so it's on Sunday, the 14th at 4 p.m. All right, everybody, enjoy your evening. I want to say thank you so much for coming out, for supporting the Education Task Force. Remember, if you support the Education Task Force, and support doesn't mean money, it means your time and your talent that you're working on all these years, you give back to Jamaica. So if you support Education Task Force and JD10, you're actually giving back to Jamaica in so many different ways. We really don't want your money, we want your energy and your vim, vigor, and vitality, basically, to give back to Jamaica. Thank you so much, everybody, and we look forward to seeing everybody in our next meeting and in the committees. Okay, is that it, Lady Largy?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you so much, our special guests and directors, and we will see you guys very, very soon. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.